Once the blinds, compulsory bets to get the action going, have been posted, each player receives 2 cards face down that only they will see. These cards are known as hole cards. Starting with the player to the immediate left of the big blind, each player makes a betting decision based on their hole cards. With that round of betting complete, the flop is dealt. These 3 community cards are placed face up on the table and can be used by all players to help make the best possible hand. Then there's another round of betting, starting this time with the person on the immediate left of the player holding the dealer button, the small blind. Incidentally, the dealer button moves 1 place to the left each hand to make things fair. After another round of betting, the 4th card is placed on the board. This is more commonly known as the turn card. More betting, and then the 5th or river card is dealt. Players must now make the best 5-card hand from the 7 cards available to them, and the player with the highest rank hand takes the pot. So once you've been dealt your hole cards, how do you decide whether they are playable? Well, one of the big dangers of no-limit hold'em is that you can face a big raise from an opponent at any time. Equally, if you have good or great hole cards, then you can raise before the flop to indicate strength. When the flop comes, you'll need to read how good your hand might be now against all the other players left in the pot. If you don't rate it as any good, then you really only have 2 choices: fold it or bluff by shoving in a big raise. But be realistic. If you haven't got a hand by now, then the odds are you're beaten and you really should fold. If you still think you're in good shape after the flop, then you'll stay in for the 4th or turn card in the hope of improving your hand further. Or if you've already made your hand, then it's about extracting as many chips as possible from your opponents. By the time the 5th and river card is dealt, there will only be 1 or 2 other players left in, and here's the choice. It's simple. If you think you're ahead, get your chips in big and early. Often it's the first to bet who wins. Having a strategy for how you're going to play before and after the flop can have a great effect on your game. You'll feel more in control and more confident, both of which are great for your table image. Develop a plan for how you're going to play starting hands from certain positions. If you're planning to try and knock people out of the hand, then make substantial bets to limit the competition, or to stop people limping in and hitting an unlikely hand that beats you. A half-hearted bet generally indicates weakness of belief in your hand, something that you don't want to do if you're playing a middle-ranking hand, albeit one that could improve. If your hand isn't complete after the flop, the odds are it isn't going to get better. By carrying on, you're normally just throwing good money after bad. For every time you do hit a lucky card, there'll be many more times when you don't. If you've been playing with the right start cards, then once the flop has come, you should have the best hand. So this is no time to mess about. Raise. And if you get re-raised, double check the board for anything you may have missed, and if you see nothing that scares you, re-raise the raiser. Aggressive play after the flop is what usually wins the pot, and far too many players fold good hands when a re-raise would have won the hand. The great thing about poker is that there's always a new trick to be learned or tried, hopefully without losing too much. For example, if before the flop you've got a monster like aces or kings, when the usual play would be to raise, you could just call and hope that someone else raises behind you. Then so long as the flop looks good, you should hit back with a big raise, which in most cases will see others fold. What about flush draws then? Lots of players love to play suited cards before the flop, as suddenly the chance of a flush is on. But in the real world, the odds of the flop being all the same suit are 20 to 1. So if the flop does come down with cards of the same suit as your hole cards, then you have flopped a killer hand. But if on the flop you only hit 1 card of the same suit as your hole cards, then the chances of your flush completing by the river are 23 to 1 against. A bit rich for anyone but the most enthusiastic or stupid of gamblers. Finally, when it comes to betting on the river, have a good look at the board before betting and consider the possibilities. Does that pair on the board mean you're up against a full house? Does that 3rd card of the same suit indicate a flush has been made? But the best rule for river play is that you should rarely, if ever, fold a hand that has a reasonable chance of winning. If you've come this far, then you might as well see it through to the bitter end.